At Christmas, my parents told my 16-year-old daughter there was no room for her at the table. I was working a double shift in the ER, saving lives while my family destroyed my daughter's Christmas. She had to drive home alone to spend Christmas in an empty house. I didn't make a scene at the hospital. I didn't argue. I just quietly started planning my response, because when you hurt my child, you've crossed a line there's no coming back from. My parents found my letter and started screaming. But it was already too late. The fluorescent lights in the ER buzzed overhead as I checked my watch. 11:47 p.m. on Christmas Eve. Around me, the familiar chaos of the emergency room continued its relentless rhythm. A toddler with a fever cried in bed 3 while his exhausted mother tried to comfort him. An elderly man clutched his chest in bed 7, his wife holding his hand with white knuckles. This was my world, sterile, demanding, but honest. People came here broken, and we put them back together. No games, no manipulation, just raw human need and genuine care. I'd been on my feet for 14 hours straight, but that wasn't unusual. As a single mom, I'd learned to push through exhaustion, to smile when my back ached and my feet screamed in protest. The other nurses knew my story, divorced at 25 when Emma was just a baby, working my way through nursing school while my parents watched her. They'd stepped in when I needed them most, and I'd been grateful ever since. Too grateful, maybe. My phone sat silent in my scrubs pocket. I'd put it on Do Not Disturb hours ago, standard protocol during busy shifts. Emma knew not to call unless it was an emergency. She was probably having the time of her life at my parents' house, surrounded by family, opening presents, eating my mother's famous honey ham. The image warmed me even as another ambulance pulled up outside, its red and blue lights painting the walls in festive colors that felt oddly appropriate. "Rebecca, incoming trauma in 2 minutes," called Dr. Martinez from across the floor. "Car accident, possible internal bleeding." I nodded, checking my supplies one more time. This was what I lived for. These moments when training and instinct took over, when nothing existed except the patient and the singular focus of saving a life. It's why I'd chosen emergency medicine, why I thrived in the chaos that sent others running. Every save was a victory, every successful resuscitation a reminder that some things in this world still made sense. The trauma doors burst open and I fell into the familiar dance of triage. Vitals, assessment, treatment. The patient was a young father, probably rushing home to his own family's Christmas morning. As we worked, I found myself thinking about Emma, hoping she was taking pictures with her cousins, hoping she felt the warmth of belonging that every child deserved. It wasn't until 2:17 a.m. that I finally had a moment to breathe. The young father was stable, headed up to surgery with good odds. The toddler's fever had broken. The elderly man's chest pain turned out to be anxiety, not a heart attack. I slumped against the nurse's station and finally pulled out my phone. 7 missed calls from Emma, 3 voicemails. My stomach dropped. The first voicemail was time-stamped 7:23 p.m. "Mom, I'm at Grandma's, but can you call me when you get a chance? It's not an emergency, but..." Her voice trailed off, young and uncertain. The second, 8:45 p.m. "Mom, I really need to talk to you. I know you're busy, but..." I could hear voices in the background, laughter that didn't include her. The third, 10:15 p.m. "Mom, I'm driving home. I'll explain later. Love you." Her voice was thick, like she'd been crying. My hands shook as I dialed her number. She picked up on the first ring. "Mom?" "Emma, baby, what happened? Are you okay? Are you hurt?" "I'm fine. I'm home. She took a shaky breath. "There wasn't room for me at dinner." "What do you mean there wasn't room?" "Grandma said they'd set the table for family, and there were exactly enough chairs. Aunt Jennifer's kids, her new boyfriend, everyone. But when I got there, Grandma looked surprised to see me. She said, 'Oh, Emma, I wasn't expecting you. Didn't your mother tell you we were having a small family dinner this year?' My blood turned to ice. She said, 'What?' I told her you were working and that we'd planned for me to come. But she just looked at Aunt Jennifer, and Aunt Jennifer shrugged and said maybe next year they'd plan better. Then Grandma suggested I could eat in the kitchen after everyone else finished." I closed my eyes, gripping the phone so tight I thought it might crack. Tell me you didn't eat in the kitchen. I didn't. I said I wasn't feeling well and left. Mom, I drove home and heated up a frozen dinner. On Christmas. Her voice broke. I watched a Hallmark movie about family while eating mac and cheese from a microwave. The image hit me like a physical blow. My 16-year-old daughter, alone in our empty house on Christmas night, while I saved strangers and my family, treated her like an inconvenience. Emma, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. It's not your fault, Mom. You were saving lives. It's just... She paused. Do they even like me? Because it feels like they only tolerate me because they have to. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that my parents adored her, that this was all a misunderstanding. But as I sat there in the harsh hospital lighting, surrounded by people who'd shown more genuine care for strangers tonight than my family had shown my daughter, I couldn't find the words, because Emma was right. And I'd been too blind, too grateful, too desperate to maintain the illusion of family support to see it. I love you, baby. We'll talk when I get home, okay? Okay, I'm going to bed. See you in the morning, Mom. After she hung up, I sat staring at my phone for a long time. Around me, the ER continued its never-ending cycle of human crisis and human healing, but for the first time in my career, I felt completely unable to fix what was broken. The next few days blurred together in a haze of forced normalcy. Emma insisted she was fine, that it wasn't a big deal, that we should just focus on our own little Christmas celebration when I got home from my shift. But I watched her carefully, saw how she checked her phone hopefully only to set it down with disappointment. No texts from her grandparents asking if she was okay. No calls from her aunt checking on her. Nothing. I, meanwhile, had received exactly 3 messages from my family. One from my mother on Christmas morning. Hope you had a good shift, dear. Emma seemed tired when she stopped by. Stopped by, like she'd been a casual visitor instead of an invited family member. One from my father. Merry Christmas, Becca. Thanks for all your hard work. And one from my sister Jennifer. Hey sis, crazy night last night. Kids opened presents until midnight. Hope you and Emma had a nice quiet Christmas. A nice quiet Christmas. My daughter ate frozen food alone while her cousins were spoiled with presents and attention, and my sister called it nice and quiet. I found myself replaying Christmas nights from previous years, looking for patterns I'd been too exhausted or too trusting to notice. The way my mother always seemed genuinely surprised when I reminded her Emma would be coming. The way Jennifer's children got elaborate gifts while Emma received gift cards. The way conversations stopped when Emma entered a room, then resumed when she left. How had I missed it? How had I been so focused on my gratitude for their help during Emma's early years that I'd failed to see they'd never actually embraced her as family? On New Year's Eve, I made a decision. I called my mother. Oh, Rebecca, dear, how are you? How was your Christmas? It was fine, Mom. I wanted to talk to you about Emma's visit Christmas Eve. A pause. Oh, that? Yes. Well, she seemed upset about something. I hope she's not coming down with something. She was upset because you told her there wasn't room for her at the dinner table. Another pause, longer this time. Well, dear, you know how these things are. We'd planned for a specific number, and with Jennifer's new boyfriend joining us. Mom, Emma is your granddaughter. Of course she is. Don't be dramatic, Rebecca. It was just one evening, and there will be plenty of other what? Other family gatherings where she's an afterthought? Other holidays where she drives home alone? Rebecca, I think you're overreacting. Emma is a lovely girl, but she's always been a bit sensitive. Maybe she misunderstood. She didn't misunderstand anything. My voice was getting sharper, and I could hear my mother's breath intake on the other end. She understood perfectly that her cousins were welcome, but she wasn't. Now you're just being unfair. We love Emma. No, you don't. The words came out before I could stop them. You tolerate her. You've always tolerated her. And you know what? She knows it. The silence stretched between us. Finally, my mother's voice came back, colder now. I think you're tired, dear. We can discuss this when you're feeling more reasonable. She hung up. I stared at the phone, shaking. In the next room, Emma was doing homework, probably trying to pretend she hadn't heard my raised voice. The house felt too quiet, too small, like the walls were closing in. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Emma's face when she'd told me about eating dinner alone. I thought about all the times I'd worked extra shifts to afford nice gifts for my parents, flowers for my mother's birthday, dinners out to celebrate Jennifer's achievements, all the times I'd bent over backward to maintain relationships with people who saw my daughter as a burden. I got up and went to Emma's room. She was awake, staring at the ceiling. "Can't sleep either?" I asked. She shook her head. "Mom, are you going to fight with Grandma because of me?" "Oh, baby." I sat on her bed, brushing hair from her face. "I'm not fighting because of you. I'm fighting for you. There's a difference." "But what if they decide they don't want to see us anymore?" I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. 16 years old, beautiful, intelligent, kind. She was worried about people who'd made her eat Christmas dinner alone, deciding they didn't want to see her anymore. The tragedy of it hit me like a truck. "Emma, what if I told you that might not be the worst thing that could happen?" She turned to look at me, eyes wide. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if we stopped worrying about what they want and started thinking about what we deserve?" For the first time since Christmas Eve, Emma smiled. It was small, tentative, but it was real. "What would that look like?" she asked. I didn't have an answer yet, but for the first time in years, I was ready to find out. The next few weeks were a masterclass in family manipulation. My mother called twice, both times to chat as if our New Year's conversation had never happened. She mentioned upcoming family events, Jennifer's birthday dinner, my father's retirement party, always with the subtle assumption that, of course, Emma and I would attend. And wasn't it wonderful how close our family was? Jennifer texted me links to funny memes with messages like, "Thought you'd enjoy this," and "Missing you, sis." Never once did she acknowledge that her children had celebrated Christmas while my daughter sat alone. My father, predictably, said nothing at all, but I was watching now. Really watching. And once you start seeing the patterns, you can't unsee them. I noticed how my mother's voice changed when she talked about Jennifer's children versus when she mentioned Emma. Warm and excited for her real grandchildren, politely interested when discussing Emma. I noticed how family photos on her Facebook page featured Jennifer's family prominently, while Emma appeared in maybe 1 out of every 10 pictures, usually in the background. I noticed how Jennifer would post about family dinner with my babies on nights when Emma and I weren't invited. How she'd share memes about being a proud aunt to her children, but never mentioned being an aunt to Emma. Most painfully, I noticed how Emma had learned to make herself small around them, how she'd sit quietly during family gatherings, never interrupting, never demanding attention, how she'd thank them profusely for gifts that were clearly afterthoughts, how she'd offer to help clean up while her cousins ran off to play. My daughter had spent her entire life trying to earn love from people who'd already decided she wasn't worth it. The final straw came in February. Jennifer called to invite us to her son's basketball game. "It's such a big deal for him," she gushed. "The whole family's going to be there. Mom and Dad are so excited to watch their grandson play." Their grandson. Not to watch Tommy play or to support the kids. Their grandson. The implication was crystal clear. Emma wasn't their granddaughter in any way that mattered. "What time?" I asked. "Saturday at 2. "Oh, and Rebecca?" "Maybe don't bring Emma. I mean, she doesn't really know Tommy that well, and it might be boring for her." My hand tightened on the phone. "Emma is Tommy's cousin." "Well, yes, technically, but you know what I mean. She's not really into sports, and the gym gets so crowded." She was asking me to exclude my own daughter from a family event, asking me to participate in her erasure. "I'll let you know," I said, and hung up. I found Emma in her room, working on a college application essay. She looked up when I entered, her face brightening in that way that still, after all these years, made my heart ache with love. "Hey, Mom, what's up?" "Jennifer invited us to Tommy's basketball game Saturday." "Oh, that's nice. Are we going?" I sat down next to her, choosing my words carefully. "She asked me not to bring you." Emma's face went very still. Oh, she said you wouldn't be interested and the gym gets crowded. Right, that makes sense. But her voice was small, distant. Emma, look at me. She turned, and I saw in her eyes what I'd been trying to ignore for months: resignation, acceptance of being unwanted. It doesn't make sense. It's cruel and it's wrong, and I'm done pretending otherwise. Mom, it's okay. No, it's not okay. Nothing about this is okay. I took her hands in mine. You are my daughter. You are their granddaughter and their niece. You deserve better than being treated like an inconvenience. Emma's eyes filled with tears. But what if standing up for me means you lose them too? I thought about that for a long moment. Then I pulled her into a hug and whispered the truth I'd finally found the courage to speak. Baby, I think I lost them a long time ago. I just didn't want to admit it. That night, after Emma went to bed, I sat at my kitchen table and began to write. Not an angry letter, not a dramatic confrontation, but a clear, honest accounting of 16 years of subtle rejection and casual cruelty. I wrote about Christmas Eve and basketball games and birthday parties where Emma was forgotten. I wrote about gift cards instead of thoughtful presents and background placement in family photos. I wrote about my daughter driving home alone on Christmas to eat a frozen dinner while her cousins gorged themselves on love and attention. And then I wrote about consequences. I was done protecting their feelings at the expense of my daughter's worth. I was done being grateful for scraps while they fed the people they actually considered family. I was done pretending that blood relation meant the same thing as love. By the time I finished, it was nearly 3 a.m. I sealed the letter in an envelope, addressed it to both my parents, and placed it on the kitchen counter where I'd see it first thing in the morning. For the first time in months, I slept peacefully. I woke up the next morning to find Emma sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the sealed envelope I'd left there the night before. "Is that what I think it is?" she asked quietly. I poured myself coffee, my hands steadier than they'd been in weeks. "It's a letter to your grandparents." "Are you going to send it?" I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. 16 years old, sitting there in her pajamas, worrying about whether standing up for her would cause more problems. When had she learned to make herself so small? When had I taught her that keeping peace was more important than demanding respect? "Yes," I said. "I'm going to send it today." Emma nodded slowly. "Will you let me read it first?" I hesitated. The letter was raw, honest in ways that might hurt her to read. But she deserved to know that someone was finally willing to fight for her place in this family. "Okay, but Emma, some of it might be hard to hear." She took the letter with steady hands and read in silence. I watched her face change as she processed words I'd written in the dark hours of the morning, words about years of exclusion disguised as oversight, about love offered conditionally and acceptance withheld entirely. When she finished, she looked up at me with tears in her eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of relief. "Mom, I thought it was me. I thought I was the problem." "Oh, sweetheart." I sat beside her, pulling her close. "You were never the problem. You were inconvenient to people who should have moved mountains to make room for you." That afternoon, I drove to my parents' house and slipped the letter under their door. No dramatic confrontation, no shouting match. Just the quiet delivery of truth they'd been avoiding for 16 years. I didn't have to wait long for a response. My phone started ringing at 6:47 p.m. My mother's contact photo filled the screen, a picture from Emma's 8th birthday party where she stood stiffly beside the cake, smiling for the camera, but somehow managing to look like she'd rather be anywhere else. "Rebecca Elizabeth Thompson, what the hell is wrong with you?" I'd expected anger, but the venom in her voice still caught me off guard. "Hello, Mom. Don't you hello, Mom me. This letter, this ridiculous, hurtful letter, what are you trying to accomplish?" "I'm trying to protect my daughter." "From what? From family who loves her?" The words hung in the air between us. She'd said them automatically, reflexively, but we both knew they weren't true. "When's the last time you called her, Mom?" "Just to talk, not because you needed something from me." Silence. When's the last time you remembered her birthday without me reminding you? More silence. When's the last time you included her in anything without making it feel like you were doing us a favor? Rebecca, you're being completely unreasonable. Am I? Because I have 16 years of evidence that says otherwise. I heard my father's voice in the background asking what was wrong. My mother's muffled response, Rebecca's lost her mind. Let me talk to him, I said. Your father doesn't want to. Let me talk to him, Mom. There was shuffling, whispered arguing, then my father's tired voice. Becca, what's this all about? It's about Emma spending Christmas alone while you and Mom celebrated with Jennifer's family. Now, honey, that wasn't... It's about 16 years of treating my daughter like she's not really your granddaughter. That's not true. When's her birthday, Dad? Pause. Well, It's September 15th. She turned 16 4 months ago. You sent a card with $20 in it. Jennifer's kids get birthday parties and gifts you actually picked out yourself. Becca, that's not fair. What's not fair is my daughter thinking she's not good enough for her own family. I heard him sigh, that long exhale he'd always made when he was uncomfortable and wanted the conversation to end. Maybe we should all sit down and talk about this calmly. We tried calm, Dad. I've been calm for 16 years. Calm got Emma eating Christmas dinner alone. My mother's voice cut through. Give me that phone. More shuffling. Rebecca, you listen to me. I have tried my best with that girl. That girl is your granddaughter. I know what she is, but she's not. She stopped herself, but I heard what she almost said. She's not ours. She's not really family. She's not worth the same effort we give to Jennifer's children. She's not what, Mom? Nothing. I'm not doing this. When you're ready to have an adult conversation instead of throwing accusations around, you can call us back. The line went dead. I sat in my car outside my parents' house, hands shaking slightly. Part of me wanted to march up to their door, to fight and scream and demand they explain 16 years of casual cruelty. But I knew it wouldn't change anything. You can't argue someone into loving your child. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. Mom called. What's going on? She's really upset. I typed back. Ask her why Emma spent Christmas alone. What are you talking about? Ask her about Christmas Eve. Ask her why there wasn't room for Emma at the dinner table. Dots appeared and disappeared several times before her response came. I'm sure it was just a misunderstanding. No, I typed. It wasn't. Over the next few days, I did something I'd never done before. I researched. I spent hours reading about family dynamics, about golden children and scapegoats, about emotional neglect and conditional love. I read articles about grandparents who play favorites and the long-term psychological impact on the children who are left out. Every article felt like someone had been watching my family for 16 years and taking notes. Emma found me one evening surrounded by printouts and open laptop tabs. Learning anything interesting? She asked, settling beside me on the couch. Too much, I admitted. Emma, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be completely honest with me. She nodded. How long have you known that they treat you differently? She was quiet for a long moment, picking at a loose thread on the throw pillow. Since I was about 10, I think. Maybe younger, but that's when I started really noticing. Why didn't you say anything? Because I thought if I just tried harder, if I was better behaved, more helpful, more grateful, I thought they'd start to like me. She looked up at me with eyes too old for 16. And because I was scared that if I complained, you'd choose them over me. My heart broke. Emma, I know you wouldn't now, she said quickly. But when I was little, they were the ones helping us. They were the ones watching me when you were in school or working. I thought if I made trouble, they'd stop helping, and then what would happen to us? I pulled her close, understanding finally why she'd learned to make herself so small. She'd been protecting both of us the only way a child knew how. I'm so sorry, I whispered. I'm so sorry I didn't see it sooner. You were doing your best, Mom. You were working and going to school and raising me basically alone. I didn't want to be one more problem for you to solve. That night, I made a decision. I called Dr. Sarah Chen, a family therapist whose name had come up in several of my research articles. Her receptionist fit us in for an appointment the following week. I want you to talk to someone, I told Emma. Someone who can help you work through 16 years of being made to feel like you're not enough. What about you? Me too. I need to figure out how I let this happen for so long. The therapy sessions were harder than I'd expected. Dr. Chen had a gentle but direct way of asking questions that cut straight to the heart of things. Rebecca, she said during our third session, what do you think you were getting from this relationship with your parents? I don't understand. You're an intelligent woman. You're trained to observe and assess situations quickly and accurately. What kept you from seeing what was happening to Emma? I thought about it for a long time. I think I was so grateful for their help when Emma was little that I felt like I owed them something, like I couldn't ask for more because they'd already done enough. And what about now? Do you still feel like you owe them? No, I said, and meant it. I think I've paid that debt in full. Meanwhile, my family's response to my letter escalated from angry phone calls to wounded text messages to what I later recognized as a full-scale manipulation campaign. My mother called on a Tuesday, crying. Rebecca, I can't sleep. I can't eat. How could you say those terrible things about us? We love Emma. We've always loved Emma. Jennifer texted daily with variations of Mom's heartbroken and Dad's not speaking to anyone, and can't we just put this behind us? Even my father, who usually avoided conflict, left a voicemail. Becca, your mother's making herself sick over this. Can't you just apologize so we can move on? Apologize for protecting my daughter, for demanding she be treated with basic respect. They want me to apologize, I told Dr. Chen. What would you be apologizing for? For telling the truth, I guess. And how does that sit with you? It doesn't. It sits like poison. Dr. Chen nodded. Emma, how do you feel about the idea of your mom apologizing to your grandparents? Emma looked up from the tissue she'd been shredding. Like it would erase everything we've talked about. Like it would prove that keeping peace is more important than my feelings. And Rebecca, how do you feel hearing that? Like I'm never apologizing for standing up for my daughter. The breakthrough came during our fourth session. Dr. Chen asked Emma to describe a time when she felt truly loved and accepted by family. Emma thought for a long time. Christmas morning this year, she finally said, just me and Mom. We slept in late, made pancakes in our pajamas, watched movies. Nobody made me feel like I was taking up too much space or asking for too much attention. What made that different from other family gatherings? It was just us. There was nobody there who wished I wasn't. The simplicity of it hit me like a physical blow. My daughter felt most loved by family when half her family wasn't there. Dr. Chen turned to me. Rebecca, what does that tell you? That the people who are supposed to love her most have spent 16 years making her feel unwanted. And what does that mean for your relationship with them going forward? I looked at Emma, sitting there so brave and honest, finally allowed to speak truths she'd carried alone for years. Then I thought about my parents, probably sitting in their living room right now, angry that I dared to hold them accountable for the pain they'd caused. It means I'm done prioritizing their comfort over her well-being. 2 weeks after sending the letter, my phone rang at 11:30 p.m., my mother's number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Rebecca? Her voice was smaller than usual, uncertain. Hi, Mom. I've been thinking about what you wrote, about Christmas and other things. I waited. Maybe we could talk, all of us, try to work this out. What does working it out look like to you? I don't know, but I don't want to lose you girls. You girls. Even now, even in her attempt at reconciliation, Emma was an afterthought. A package deal she'd have to accept to keep me. Mom, what's Emma's middle name? What? Emma's middle name. What is it? Silence stretched between us. My daughter's middle name was Grace. She'd had it for 16 years. It was on every birthday card, every Christmas present, every school form my mother had ever seen. Rebecca, what does that have to do with anything? It has to do with everything. My voice was steady, calm. You want to work things out, but you don't even know my daughter's full name. That's not fair. It's Grace, Mom. Emma Grace Thompson. She was named after your mother, remember? I thought it would make you feel connected to her." I heard her crying softly on the other end of the line. "The thing is," I continued, "I don't think you're a bad person. I think you're a person who convinced yourself that loving some grandchildren less than others was acceptable. And maybe it was easier than examining why you felt that way." "Rebecca, please. I'm not trying to hurt you, Mom, but I can't pretend anymore that Emma doesn't notice the difference. I can't keep asking her to be grateful for crumbs when her cousins get the whole meal. What do you want from us?" The question hung in the air. What did I want? An apology? A promise to do better? A guarantee that Emma would suddenly become their favorite grandchild? "I want you to either love her completely or leave her alone," I said finally. No more half measures. No more making her feel like she has to earn something that should be freely given. And if we can't, if we don't, then we'll build our own traditions, Emma and me, and maybe some chosen family who actually wants us both there. After I hung up, I found Emma in the hallway. She'd been listening. "I'm proud of you, Mom," she said simply. 3 days later, I got a text from Jennifer. "Tommy's championship game is Saturday. The whole family will be there. You're both welcome if you want to come." You're both welcome. Such a simple phrase, but it was the first time anyone in my family had explicitly included Emma in an invitation. I showed the text to Emma. "What do you think?" She studied it for a long moment. "I think it's a start, but Mom?" "Yeah?" "If they make me feel unwanted even once, can we leave?" "Baby, if they make you feel unwanted for even a second, we're out of there." We went to the game. My parents were polite to Emma, asking about school and complimenting her hair. Jennifer introduced her to other parents as my niece Emma instead of just Emma. It was awkward, stilted, but it was an effort. Emma cheered for Tommy, genuinely excited when he scored. She high-fived my father when Tommy's team won. She helped clean up afterward without being asked. In the car afterward, I asked how it felt. "Better," she said. "Still weird, but better. Like they were trying." "Are you willing to let them keep trying?" She thought about it. "Yeah. But Mom, I don't need them to love me the same way they love Tommy and Sarah. I just need them to stop making me feel like loving me is a burden." My wise, gracious daughter. 16 years old and already understanding forgiveness in ways it had taken me decades to learn. Over the following months, things slowly improved. My parents made an effort to include Emma in conversations, to remember her interests, to treat her less like an obligation and more like a person they actually wanted to know. Jennifer started texting Emma directly instead of going through me, sharing funny memes and asking about her college plans. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments when I caught the old patterns trying to reassert themselves, times when I had to gently redirect conversations or remind family members that Emma's achievements deserved the same enthusiasm as her cousins. But for the first time in 16 years, my daughter didn't have to fight for her place at the table. The real change came the following Christmas. My mother called in early December to plan the holiday dinner. "I want to make sure we have Emma's favorite dishes," she said. "What is she like?" "I know Tommy loves my green bean casserole and Sarah always asks for my sweet potato pie, but I realized I don't know what Emma's favorites are." I almost cried. "She loves your honey ham, and she's always been too polite to say anything, but she's never liked green beans. She'd probably love your mashed potatoes with extra butter. I'll make sure there's plenty. And Rebecca, this year I'm setting the table for family. All of our family." Christmas Eve found us all gathered around my parents' dining room table, the same table where a year ago there hadn't been room for Emma. She sat between Tommy and my father, laughing at one of his terrible jokes, helping my mother bring dishes from the kitchen. "This is nice," Emma whispered to me as we cleared dessert plates. "It feels like family," I suggested. "Yeah, like real family." Later that night, as we drove home with containers of leftovers and genuine smiles, Emma turned to me. "Mom, thank you." "For what?" "For fighting for me. For not giving up when it would have been easier to just keep things the way they were." I reached over and squeezed her hand. "Emma, you are worth fighting for. You've always been worth fighting for. I'm just sorry it took me so long to figure that out." "But you did figure it out. That's what matters." As we pulled into our driveway, Emma's phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Thank you for helping with dishes tonight, sweetheart. See you next week for New Year's. Love, Grandma." Emma showed me the text, grinning. She called me sweetheart. She did indeed. And she signed it, "Love, Grandma." The first of many, I hope. That night, I tucked the letter I'd written a year ago into Emma's baby book, the letter that had changed everything. Someday, when she has children of her own, she'll understand what it means to love someone so fiercely that you'll risk everything to protect their place in the world. But tonight, she was just my 16-year-old daughter, finally secure in the knowledge that her family, all of her family, wanted her there. And that was enough, more than enough. It was everything.